So when you're running around cow games or Chaos Sanctuary runs here in Diablo 2 Resurrected, you're seeing base items fall all over the place. A ton of them are absolute trash. Maybe pick some of them up. Hey, we'll go sell these to Charcy, get some gold to, I don't know, repair my teleport staff or something like that. But whoa, hold up real quick. Are you selling base items that could be worth even high runes? You might be. So today we're going to go over all the different type of base items in Diablo 2 Resurrected that you could get mid and high runes for. Alright, just to go over the general structure of this video, for the first half here we're going to go over the types of Runeword bases that have kind of been around forever with the old Diablo 2 Resurrected, and then we're going to head into actually new bases that I think are going to be incredibly valuable with the new Runewords that are coming to Season 1 of D2R. First off, I'm going to bring some honorable mentions here, and that's going to be 4 open-socketed flails and 5 open-socketed crystal swords. Now these aren't going to hold a ton of value a long time into a ladder season, but at the very beginning of ladder, the 4 open-socketed flails every single caster needs in order to make themselves a Hoto. Similarly to that, the 5 open-socketed crystal swords are not going to hold value for an incredibly long time, but some people are incredibly lazy right at the beginning of a ladder, and they'll give you something like maybe a Lem rune for one of these, or for the 4 open-socketed flails, just because they're too lazy to go farm one themselves. Now the 5 open-socketed crystal sword is everyone's go-to for making a CTA. Now you can also make a call to arms in a flail, but a lot of times because they make their Hoto in a flail, they don't want to have the same weapon to make their CTA, and that way you can just look right at your character and tell which one you actually have currently equipped. So that's why they always go with the crystal sword or their call to arms. So the next one here is kind of a midway between honorable mention and you can actually really get some good runes for them, and that's going to be 4-socketed shields. Now at the beginning of ladder, every single caster needs to get themselves that Spirit Monarch, so getting that 4 open-socketed Monarch is a must. So they will have some value at the very beginning of ladder, but later on, really not so much. But you can actually make Spirit in another shield that's specifically for the Paladins, and those ones are going to have a lot of value if you can find the right ones. So some of the really good bases for Paladin shields are things like a Curse shield, a Vortex shield, or a Crown shield. But more specifically than that, they can't just have 4 open sockets and hold a bunch of value. Really what you want to get is incredibly high all resistance on them, and you actually can get up to 45. Now if you can get up to that 45 all res on one of these good Pally shield bases, those are going to hold good value. So the next one here, we're going to get you the base item for the go-to Runeword for every single melee character in Diablo 2 Resurrected, and that is the 5 open-socketed Phase Blade. Now in this base item, you're going to be making yourself a grief, and it is absolutely, literally, this is not an understatement, the go-to, like I said, for every melee character. Now just a regular 5 open-socketed Phase Blade isn't going to fetch you a whole lot. Maybe you could get something for it at the very beginning of ladder, but if you get the superior version with enhanced damage on this, that will get you a pretty penny. Next up is going to be armors that are bases for Runewords. Now first off, we'll start off with 3 open-socketed armors, and those are going to be for, well, early on, for treacheries for your Act 2 mercenary, or possibly even for the Act 5 mercenary, but more specifically, those 3 open-socketed armors are going to be used for Enigma later on. Now it's a little bit sketchy here whether you want the superior one or not. This is just my opinion here. I prefer to not have a superior one because it costs a bazillion gagillion gold in order to repair it, but a lot of people want that like extra 35 defense or whatever that comes from having a superior base for your Enigma. So those ones generally do have a little bit more value. Now other socketed body armors that are good for Runeword bases are going to be 4 open socketed armors, and those are going to be for making Fortitude. These can be valuable either in regular versions or in the ethereal versions for your mercenary. Now once again, if you didn't know, ethereal items do not lose durability on your mercenary, so that's why they want that incredibly large amount of extra defense for those Runeword bases for the mercenary. Once again, as is the case for almost all this stuff, the superior versions are going to have a lot more value than the ones that are not superior, with that 15% enhanced defense. The Act 2 mercenary has been the go-to here in Diablo 2 for many years, and this particular base item is going to be an item that goes towards that particular character there. And that's going to be the 4 open-socketed polearm. Now regular 4-socketed polearms, maybe you could get a tiny bit at the beginning of ladder for normal ones, but what you're really looking for is the ethereal versions. If you did not know, actually ethereal items do not lose durability when they are on your mercenary. So since they have so much more damage, that's what it is to go to. Now the ethereal versions with 4 open sockets to make your insight or your infinity are definitely what you're looking for, but actually you can get ones that are even worth high runes if it's the right base, if it's ethereal, and if it's that 15% enhanced durability on the superior version. Now even just getting an ethereal version is pretty rare. You can definitely find them, but those superior ethereal versions are incredibly rare, which also is what makes them so valuable. So now we're jumping in the most exciting section here. That's the second half of this video, where it's going to be the Runeword bases that I believe are actually going to be incredibly valuable in the first season of Diablo 2 Resurrected with the new Runewords coming out. And the first one I'm coming at you with here is actually 4 open socketed spears for those infinity and those 5 open socketed spears for obedience runewords. Now these are not new runewords, but they did change that you could actually make those runewords not only in polearms, but now also in spears. Now the 5 open socketed versions are not going to be as valuable. Obedience is generally kind of a budget item for your Act 2 mercenary, or the ones that are not ethereal, kind of budget items for, we'll say, like a druid or something like that. But the 4 open socketed versions I feel are going to be incredibly valuable for those infinities. The ethereal polearms definitely going to be great options even after these changes come in the 2.4 patch, but there are definitely spears such as, we'll say, an ethereal superior ghost spear that has 4 open sockets. Plug an infinity in there, that's going to be a crazy amount of damage for your Act 2 mercenary. Also, if any of y'all played any of those games like Project Diablo 2, the different mods for regular Diablo 2, you'll know that usually the ethereal man catcher, even though having lower damage, is actually a go-to for those Act 2 mercenaries. Now the actual raw damage on the base item is lower, but the item attacks so fast that you proc crushing blow so often that actually increases the damage per second, actually putting it on top from all the calculations that I've heard from other people. So the same cases with this as with the polearms. The ethereal versions are usually going to be more valuable because then they have more damage for your Act 2 mercenary, and also on top of being ethereal, you would like to find them in the superior version with that 15% enhanced damage. But like I said, the reason I think these are going to be so valuable is just like the polearms, the ethereal superior versions are going to be incredibly uncommon and difficult to find. The next one is going to be incredibly similar to the last one I just talked about, but it is so interesting due to the changes that I wanted to give it its own little section. And that's going to be 4 open socketed Amazon spears. Now there's actually a couple of reasons why this went from not really being anything that anyone ever used to being valuable, in my opinion anyways, and that's because of 2 things fold. That is the infinity being able to be made into spears now, and also the changes being made to the Amazon spear skill tree. I'm sure everyone's probably heard about it by now who's watched any of the other Diablo 2 videos that came out about the PTR, but the Amazon Power Strike with a bunch of plus skills absolutely wrecks now. And because everyone's going to be playing these new skills, they're going to be wanting using new rune words in new bases and all that good stuff. I feel there's going to be incredibly high demand for these Amazon polearms that are specifically superior and with those 4 open sockets. Another reason I think there's going to be a lot of demand for this is because you can make infinity in your spear that you use on your Amazon, and I feel like a lot of people are going to want to be transitioning over to using the new Act 5 mercenary just to try something different instead of using that normal Act 2 mercenary. Now you can get your infinity on the Act 2 mercenary, but you cannot get infinity on that Act 5. But if you do a build this way with this Amazon spear with infinity, you don't need to get your infinity on your mercenary. So that frees up the chance to try something new once again. So there's a lot going for this 4 open socketed Amazon base, getting a ton of value, especially at the beginning of Diablo 2 Resurrected's first ladder. So now we're coming in with the first one that's going to be a helmet, and that's actually going to be 3 open socketed druid helmets, or you'll call them pelts. Now the reason that this one I think is going to have some value here in the first ladder is because of the runeword Flickering Flame. Similar to the Amazon, how I think that people are really going to want to try these new skills that are now viable, I believe with the druid that people are going to want to try these fire skills that before were really good in like normal and in the beginning of Nightmare, but you really couldn't do a whole lot in Hell. Now with some of these new level 85 areas that don't have any immune to fires in them, I think these are going to be viable and people are going to want to play them and try out the new stuff. So with people playing these fire builds, I think if you find the right druid pelt, such as something with 3 to Molten Boulder, 3 to Fissure, 3 to Armageddon. Then you can get 3 Open Sockets, plug in Flickering Flame that has a bunch to fire skills and also has minus enemy fire res. That's going to be a ton piling up to increase the damage of those fire druids. Now, much like the other ones, that's going to be incredibly rare to find everything rolling all together, but that's why I believe that those will actually have very, very good rune value. Alrighty, I hope you stuck around to the end because this is the granddaddy, the most exciting one of them all, in my opinion, and that's going to be 6 open socketed staves. Much like the Druid Pelt though, this one's going to have to roll with all the same skills on it, making it incredibly difficult to find. Now, the new rune word coming to Diablo 2 Resurrected for the first season is the rune word Obsession, and it does indeed take 6 runes to make. Now, first of all, we'll talk about it does get 4 to all skills, which at first glance you wouldn't really think it would overdo something like an Oculus and a Spirit or a Hoto and a Spirit, because with those you get 3 and obviously plus 2 is 5 all skills. But the way that this rune word could actually overpower those is, like I said, you get the 4 to all skills, but getting the right base is key here. If you could end up rocking something like 3 to Hydra, 3 to Fireball, 3 to Fire Mastery, right there, I think that's going to overtake it in power strictly from the skills standpoint. Now, the rest of this rune word Obsession is very, very good, and you can tell that the devs tailored it to compete with that Hoto and Spirit combination. So it's got 65 faster cast rate, which is identical to if you got a 35 FCR Spirit and an Oculus on a Sorceress, and it also has 60 faster hit recovery, which is more than comes on the Spirit. You have 55% faster hit recovery on a Spirit, and then you'd have to put a 5 faster hit recovery small charm in your inventory to hit that 60 FHR breakpoint, but right here, you get it just on the staff. So on top of that, you get actually up to 25% to your maximum life, and you actually get a good amount of mana regen. And even keep going with that, they have 60 to 70 to all res to compete with the resistance that comes on Spirit and on the Hoto or Oculus. So kind of in the spirit of some of these other socketed items, why I think they're going to be really valuable, especially at the beginning of the first ladder, I believe people are really going to want to try out these new builds. They're really going to want to try out these new rune words for the first season. It is super exciting and interesting to me how you can get these rune word bases that can roll with certain skills on them and make them incredibly valuable, but if they're just regular open socketed stuff, probably not going to have the value. So make sure you only try to make these rune words in the absolute best bases. So I'll wrap it up here with a mega shout out to the patrons and the YouTube channel members. With your support, you make it possible to keep making content like this on my channel. Peace out, YouTube, and don't forget, keep slaying. Ooh.